In June of 2019, Algeria banned protesters from waving this flag, stating it was an assault on Algeria's Arab identity. Why? Because this is the flag of the Amazigh, the indigenous people that have occupied North Africa since, well, pretty much forever. Fueled by couscous, these famous merchant nomads once linked the Mediterranean world with sub-Saharan Africa, fought against the Roman, Arab and French empires, and now battle for recognition in their own countries. They called themselves the Amazigh. We know them as the Berbers of North Africa. Berbers have a unique culture and language, separate from their Arab neighbours. Their history reaches back thousands of years before Islam arrived in North Africa. The Berbers inhabit a region now known as the Maghreb. The Berbers call it Tamazra. Tamazra stretches from the Siwa oasis in Egypt to the Canary Islands, and from the Mediterranean to the Niger and Senegal rivers. This area covers a territory that's over 7 million square kilometres, meaning if Tamazra were a unified country, it would be the 7th largest on Earth. In the Berber language of Tamazight, Berbers use the name Amazigh to describe themselves, which means free or noble men. The word Berber comes from the Greek word barbaroi, which means barber in ancient Greek. The Berbers were famous throughout the ancient world for their amazing hairstyles. Ow! Ow! Fine. This isn't true. Barbaroi was actually used for people that didn't speak Greek. The Berbers had many alternative names in the past, such as Libyans, Numidians, or Moors. With the arrival of the Arab Muslims in the 7th century, the word Barbaroi took on an Arabized form, al-Barabir or Barabira. Europeans learned this from the Arabs and would refer to them as Barbary, which soon became Berber. In recent years, Berbers have been trying to get people to stop referring to them as Berbers because of the implication, so I'll attempt to say Amazigh for the rest of the video, and I apologise to them for what I'm about to do to their language. The Amazigh have lived in North Africa since the dawn of recorded history. A precise date is difficult to grasp because Amazigh history was passed down orally, and most written records come to us from foreigners. The ancestors of the Amazigh have been in the neighbourhood for about 12,000 years. Genetic evidence shows us that most Northwest Africans, whether they consider themselves to be Amazigh or Arab, are of Amazigh descent. Early Amazigh likely entered into North Africa in waves from the Middle East, East Africa, and across the Straits from Iberia. The first written records of the Amazigh living in the Maghreb come from the Egyptians around the 13th century BC, which is 3,310 years ago. The most notable Amazigh group from this period are the Meshwesh, which is a fantastically fun word to say. Meshwesh. The Meshwesh would conquer and rule Egypt as the 22nd and 23rd dynasties. Throughout their history, the Amazigh have endured the many conquerors of North Africa. The Carthaginians, the Romans, the Vandals, the Byzantines all invaded, and each one found themselves hounded by the Amazigh. These states could control the cities on the coasts, but outside, the Amazigh held power. Because of their ability to withstand the harsh deserts and mountains, the Amazigh could always retreat, regroup, and later launch fresh raids on their invaders. The Amazigh strategy seemed to be to simply wait them out, until their invaders' empires eventually collapsed, even creating their own states in between invasions like Mauritania and Numidia. The ruins of the Mauritanian capital at Walili, near modern Fez, are still an extraordinary sight even today. Christianity appeared in Roman North Africa during the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. By the mid-3rd century, it had grown into a major religion in the area. The Amazigh became vital members of the new church. An Amazigh man, now known to us as Saint Augustine, back then he was just Augustine, it would be weird if they called him Saint. He is now regarded as one of the 4 doctors of the church, along with these 3 other guys on their lovely hats, and Augustine is considered a key figure in developing medieval and Western philosophy. The Arabs marched into North African history in the 7th century. Unlike the earlier empires that stayed near the cities, the Arabs sought to unify everyone in the country under Islam. The Amazigh relationship with the Arabs was, and is, complicated. The Amazigh both resisted and assisted the Arab conquests. Amazigh warriors fought on the side of the Arabs on their march through North Africa against the Byzantine forces, and once they had conquered North Africa, the Muslim forces turned to Iberia, with Amazigh making up most of the army. The Amazigh warrior Tariq ibn Ziyad and his force of 12,000 mostly Amazigh warriors would take the Visigoth capital of Toledo. This conquest ushered in 700 years of Muslim rule in Iberia, and Tariq would have his name forever etched into the landscape, as the area where he landed was called Jabal Tariq, the mountain of Tariq, which would eventually morph into Gibraltar. On the other hand, the Amazigh violently pushed back against Muslim conquest. Queen Kahina, an Amazigh warrior queen, wiped out an invading Arab army, delaying their conquest for years. Her eventual fight to the death and her burning of Amazigh lands in order to starve the Arabs is a symbol of Amazigh resistance to this day. Despite this and a number of other rebellions, the Amazigh would ultimately convert to Islam. The medieval and now Muslim Amazigh helped to link the Muslim Middle East with the now Muslim Spain and opened up trade with sub-Saharan Africa. Caravans spilled out of the Amazigh city of Siq el-Massa across the Sahara and returned with gold and slaves intended for Europe and the Middle East. These Amazigh caravans would carry Islam to West Africa. But even under Arabic rule, the Amazigh kept their own identity and revolts were constant. The Bar-Ghawta kingdom was born in one of these revolts. In 744 AD, the Amazigh Ibn Tarif declared himself a prophet. With a new Amazigh language Quran in hand, he gathered the Amazigh tribes and annihilated an Arab army, establishing his own kingdom in modern-day Morocco. This was an unbelievable development. Reciting the Quran in anything other than Arabic was heretical, but Tarif and the Amazigh weren't going to let a little heresy get in their way. This Amazigh version of Islam was a fusion between different sects of Islam, Judaism, and traditional Amazigh beliefs. This incident shows just how strong Amazigh culture was. But as time went by, the Arabs and Amazigh of North Africa settled into their fancy cities, enjoying their culture and literature and philosophy, like a bunch of nerds. So the Amazigh tribes of the Sahara banded together and burst onto the scene, conquering everything from Mauritania to the French border, and formed the Almoravid Empire in the 11th century. Then the Almoravids settled into their new fancy cities, enjoying their culture and literature and philosophy, like a bunch of nerds. So the Amazigh Almohads poured out of the Atlas Mountains in the 12th century, setting up their own empire and conquering even more than the Almoravids. The blend of Amazigh and Iberian culture led to such great works as the Giralda in Seville, the Kotobia Mosque in Marrakesh, and the Hassan Mosque in Rabat. By the 15th century, the age of the Amazigh Islamic empires was ending. The unification achieved under the Almoravids and the Almohads faded away, and more localized kingdoms replaced them. In 1517, the Ottoman Empire captured Cairo, and then most of North Africa, beginning 400 years of Turkish control of the region. In both the Ottoman Empire and the still independent Moroccan Sultanate, Amazigh populations were pushed to the margins of society. They fell from positions of power, and their culture vanished from public view. On June 14, 1830, a 34,000-strong French force landed on the seashores of Ottoman Algeria, 27 kilometers away from the capital of Algiers. As retribution for the Algerian lord swatting a French merchant with a fly swatter. Yeah, it was weird. By July 5th, they had seized Algiers and brought an end to over 1,000 years of Islamic rule in the region. While most of Algeria fell to the French within months of their 1830 invasion, it would take 30 tough years for them to take Kabylia, the mountainous homeland of the Kabyle Amazigh people. The French brought in a divide and rule policy for the Amazigh and the Arabs. The French saw the Kabyle Amazigh as more European than the Arabs, and tried to turn them into some sort of native colonial partner. They taught them French and funded their schools more than the rest of the non-French Algerian population. The Kabyle, however, rejected the idea and ironically went on to hold key positions in the Algerian independence movement. But after winning independence from France, Algeria and Morocco established Arabic, and only Arabic, as their official language. A process known as Arabization was started as the new states tried to unify under a new Arab-only identity. The Amazigh had to study and learn Arabic in schools while their own languages and cultures were shoved out of public view. Obviously, this made things quite awkward, and tensions between Amazigh groups and the governments of North Africa grew over linguistic and cultural issues. In 1980, after the Algerian authorities banned Maloud Mamari's lecture on Amazigh poetry, demonstrations and strikes shook the Kabyle region, kicking off the Amazigh Spring. Algerian government forces cracked down on the spring, but from it, Amazighism was born, with the Kabyle being its fiercest advocates. Amazighism stands in direct opposition to the attempts of Arabization in North African countries. It led to the Amazigh World Congress, which created the first Amazigh flag, and promotes Amazigh culture and interests. The Amazigh flag is made up of blue, green and yellow horizontal stripes, symbolising the Mediterranean Sea, the green mountains of the region and the Sahara Desert. The symbol in the middle is the letter Yas, which is unrelated to the New English letter Yas. It means free man. In 2001, tensions escalated further when an Amazigh student died in police custody. Riots and protests swept the country, especially Cablia. The state again cracked down, killing 126 people and injuring thousands. This became known as the Black Spring. In the aftermath of the chaos, Algeria made some concessions to their Amazigh population. Just 1 year later, Algeria made Tamazight a national language alongside Arabic. It gained official language status in 2016. Since then, the language rights of the Amazigh have improved slightly. In Morocco, for instance, they prohibited parents from giving their children Amazigh names until 2014. Tamazight is now an official subject in Moroccan primary schools, although it still isn't taught in all schools as was promised. So progress is being made, but the Amazigh have to keep pressure on their governments in order to continuously win these concessions. Now let's have a look at the culture of the Amazigh. Popular culture likes to depict the Amazigh as nomads, yet the bulk of them have been established farmers for thousands of years. The Tuareg, the veiled blue men of the Sahara, are some of the only nomadic Amazigh left. Women in Amazigh society have considerably more freedom than their Arab neighbours, and serve as the main artists. For most of history, it has been the women that weave the magnificent coloured carpets, the women that wore the intricate tattoos on their faces and henna tattoos on their hands and feet, or the stylized headgear on their heads. Women are the public symbol of Amazigh identity. In the lands of the Tuareg nomads of the Sahara, the camps are controlled by women. The women choose their husbands and can own property, divorce, lead raids, take part in the tribe's administration, and do not have to wear the veil common in other Muslim societies. In fact, in Tuareg culture, it's the men that wear the veil. The Amazigh are tribal, with each tribe going under the name of a shared ancestor, whose Ait, or people, they claim to be. Amazigh society is quite democratic, with all families and tribes being apparently equal and governing themselves. Controlled by codes of honour and a council of elders called the Jama'ah. These councils supervise the political, social and economic issues of the tribe while also dealing with crime and punishment. The Tuareg, however, were historically more hierarchical, ruling over subjects. They have a monarch known as an Amanokal. The Amazigh languages are a branch of the Afro-Asiatic language family, which includes the likes of Arabic, Hebrew, Ancient Egyptian and Somali. They use the ancient Tifinagh Amazigh script, which can be found on rock inscriptions throughout North Africa. The Moroccan and Algerian governments tried to suppress Tifinagh until recently. In Libya, Gaddafi outright banned it, but in the last few decades it has seen a tremendous revival, with more books each year being published in this ancient writing system. The Tifinagh script is now used to teach Tamazight in Moroccan schools. If you pass through cities like Marrakesh or Taroudannt or Agadir today, you will be able to spot shop signs in Tifinagh. The Amazigh language sounds incredible too, almost like a recording being played backwards. Here's a brief sample. Well, the Amazigh language and literature may look baffling to outsiders, but we can understand their beautiful arts and crafts that can be observed in any North African souk or market. The famous Amazigh carpets are made up of deceivingly simple lines and shapes, but they hold complex ideas within them. Like my videos, he said, while patting himself on the back. Almost every tribe has its own carpet pattern that can reveal the history of a tribe or family. The Amazigh even have their own calendar, which is fairly intriguing. It's based on the earliest mention of the Amazigh people in historical records, the founding by the Amazigh pharaoh Sheshonq I of the 22nd Egyptian dynasty in 958 BC. So the present Amazigh year is 2969. Today there are between 15 and 50 million Amazigh in the world. Yeah, it's hard to get an official number because the census data just isn't there. About 3 million Amazigh immigrants also live in Europe, mostly in France and Belgium, and the Amazigh are largely Muslim. However, until the 1960s there was a considerable Jewish Amazigh minority in Morocco, but emigration to Israel and France have shrunk that number down to just a few hundred. The Amazigh are a living, breathing, dynamic culture that has transformed and will continue to transform based on external and internal pressures. They have constantly lived in multiple worlds, multilingual, multicultural, and crucial to the cultures of North Africa. They have been in a state of resistance or compromise with one power or another for thousands of years. Living with the Egyptian pharaohs, the Roman emperors, and the Arab caliphs, the Amazigh have outlasted them all. Their will to survive and coexist is inexhaustible. They are an enduring people, and their language and culture seem set to thrive in the years to come. I hope you enjoyed this video. It is my first attempt at a new series about the peoples of our world. What people would you like me to cover next, and what did you think of the video? Let me know in the comments below. The sources for this video are in the description, along with links to all of my social media and my t-shirt store. If you would like to support the future creation of these videos, you can check out my Patreon, and I would like to thank all of my current patrons for their incredible support. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching.